Sorry?
In the future, are you saying people cannot do brain transplants?
No, I am not saying that.
So what would happen in brain
complete,
transplants?
It's completely different.
So let's understand that. In brain transplants, what would happen? Would somebody lose their total consciousness?
It's not about brain transplant because we don't know whether it would happen or not. But as of now, what we know, when we die, our consciousness dies with us. Right? Do you agree with that? Like when we
I
die,
disagree. Because once we die, we still are aware of our existence. And that awareness is rooted in our soul. Our soul lives on.
Okay, so you are talking about soul now.
Yeah, what is the soul? Science doesn't know yet.
But we don't, because science does not have any proof of it, like soul, right?
Science doesn't know yet.
Yeah, but
science is not the arbitrator of all knowledge. It's a limited scope, only knows a limited thing.
How we can accept that soul exists? Then, like,
Look.
if science is not.
So, are you going to use science to say, this is how much I love my wife?
No, of course not.
Science is the wrong tool. So, you can't bring in science, a limited tool, to answer all questions of reality.
Then what?
Other tools.
According to you, what are the?
There are lots of other tools to use.
Like?
Rationality.
So how
Rational reasoning.
Like, so
and that's what I exactly was using to understand that there has to be something necessarily always existing and must have three essential qualities.
But then again, see, I think what I'm seeing is we are going in circular.
I'm not going in circle, I'm being consistent.
Then
now you tell me, do you disagree with that the transformer must have this?
I agree with it, but I disagree on the consciousness and soul kind of.
I didn't talk about consciousness, I said
no,
awareness.
We were talking about that.
But I'm talking about awareness. The creator, now let's look about the distinction between the creator and the created.
No, just sorry. I just don't want to interrupt in between, but I'm still not able to understand because, even let's say what you say, that science is not able to answer everything, which I believe. I completely believe that science is not...
It's the wrong tool to use.
Yeah, because the why answer is not that comes from science. No, thank you. But that why answer does not come from science. But then again, soul is a very massive jump that we are making, that I believe you are making, without any... I don't see any way to prove, or if you cannot prove that soul exists. Or let's say after death...
You just asked me, and I gave you...
after death...
I gave you what I believe, right?
Yeah, but how?
Now, I can only talk about things that I can prove.
Yeah.
That's why I went to proving the transformer.
I get your point.
No, but you see now, what you're trying to do is, you're asking me to prove something that I cannot use the technology or the tools to prove. I have to use something else.
Then it's a belief.
No. I am not talking about the soul. You asked me for it. I didn't introduce soul into it. So I will talk about things which can be provable. Do you agree?
But you did introduce soul because you said, like, if we die, I said that our consciousness dies with us, right? I said that if we die, our consciousness dies with us, correct?
That's your belief.
Because we don't have any way to prove that after that consciousness...
Are you saying the absence of evidence is the proof of absence?
No, I'm not saying.
Then don't say that. This is not an evidence.
Then you say, but you are saying that...
I am not talking about the soul. Let's stop there. I'm not talking about the soul.
Then
I'm going to now ask you, in what we've discussed.
Hey. So how are you? Yeah, we were discussing earlier last week. It was a very fruitful discussion.
Fine. So what we've said so far, this agency has will, ability, and awareness. Now, is this will like our will? Is this ability like our will? Is this self-awareness like our awareness? I would say no. Because that would be a category mistake. Because the creation came from that transformer, that thing. And by definition, it will be limited in its scope. So if, for example, I have a will, my will be absolutely limited in scope compared to the will of the transformer. I'm calling the agency the transformer, the creator, right? So you cannot then say, oh, the will comes from the mind, comes from the consciousness. You're making a category mistake because you are now comparing the creation, the will of the creation, to the will of the creator. Do you follow? It's a logical fallacy you're making.
I do
category
not
mistake.
agree specifically because still, like, what you are defining, which is outside of this, there is no way to identify that that will is different from our will.
Has to be necessarily. Let me explain how. Anything that is us now, we are contingent because you've explained already
Sorry,
fine.
what is the meaning of contingent?
It could be something different. It could be otherwise.
Depends on condition. I mean,
Yeah.
it can
For
change
example,
depending on
you could have been born in Bangladesh instead of India. It wasn't necessary for you to born in India. That's the contingent property that you have. Okay. All of the things that we see, they are contingent like this. And because they are contingent, they have to rely on something that is non-contingent. That is what we call, by definition, necessary. Now, the necessary thing or a being necessarily will have different qualities and properties than contingent beings. Otherwise, it will have the same quality of the contingency. So contingent things are dependent. The necessary thing will be independent. Likewise, if, for example, I have a will with this limited scope, that will is not going to be like, it will be absolute will. We have limited will, and the creator will have absolute will. Necessarily. It follows necessarily.
I hope you have heard of these questions from a lot of people, but as of now, let's say you are talking about the creator having a will, right? But in that case, like, I know this is a pretty basic question, but we go in the infinite regress, like who created the creator? What is your point on that?
Sure. So, do you believe in infinite regress? Is possible?
I don't know, because what I've heard as of now, it's quite possible, but I don't see, like, I don't see the point in both of the cases, because it can happen, it can also.
Okay, so let's talk about infinite regress and possibility of it. Let's try to bring some scenario cases to illustrate the point. Okay, suppose now I have a book that I want to give it to you. Does anyone have a book? Quran, anything? I have. Yeah. Okay. So I'll show a demonstration. Oh, that was good. Excellent. Suppose I want to give this book to you. It's an act of what we call a change to happen, right? From my hand to your hand. Okay? If there are infinite number of people between you and me. So, for example, before I give this book to you, I have to give it to him. Then he has to give it to him. And it goes on to infinite number of people and then to you. So now imagine now, me, infinite number of people, and to you. Would it ever reach you? So that means the action of this book from my hand to your hand will not take place if there are infinite number of events to take place like that. Now let's understand this in reverse.
But doesn't it mean then if infinite regress is not possible, then is it possible?
Can I finish
that
my example?
nothing Can
Can I
come from something?
can I finish my example? Then you will see illustrated. No, don't apologize. Let me continue. Now, imagine now, the book has gone to your hand. What would that prove? Would that prove there are infinite number of people in front of me and you?
Just will tell me that you have given me the book.
It will disprove that there were infinite number of people. Because infinite number of people means it would never come to your hand. Because it came to your hand, that means there was no infinite.
already reached you. That's why
I get it.
Yeah. Do you agree? Because it went to your hand, it means it was not infinite. Okay? So now let's go talk about this universe. The universe came into existence 14.67 billion years ago, right? So that action took place. If there were infinite number of creators, then our universe will never come to existence.
But infinite would only work if there is a time involved in it, right? If let's say, if God is out of time, is your God timeless?
God is the creator of time.
yes, I think it's an important question. As
Go ahead.
Says, so you are a very important question. So infinite regress would not be a valid way of creating anything in the time scale.
Sorry.
So infinite regress would not work for bringing something into existence in the time frame. In the time frame, you are correct. But when we are in the time frame, infinite regress is invalid for creation. That's
What he said, yeah.
Okay.
So let's say outside
Yeah.
of
So
it.
now, if you are outside of time, then you are stepping outside of time. Now, if once you have stepped outside of time, then the entity beyond time should be one.
Should be.
One, single one. Yes, time.
Why is it that? Why?
Because again, it will be contingent in the sense that you cannot differentiate between action. Because how to differentiate between two entities? Because some distinction in action or some will or something like that.
Why can't, let's say for example God is one, okay, let's say God is one hypothesis, let's consider. But there are like other hypotheses which scientific community claims, like multiverse is one of them, and might be there could be in infinite universes as well as a universe is just coming from a white hole kind of thing. So how this one created this one creator thing, what do you say, is do you think
Yeah,
you believe in it?
with the other
like,
possibilities.
by
Yeah, other possibilities. How do it compare
because
with other
I know that
possibilities?
these are all hypotheses, but
Yeah,
it's
but
just
we
like
can
what
we can,
what
we can
makes you
imagine
think
the
here?
possibilities and then sort out which possibility is the rational one, which is consistent to our reality, and which are not. So this way, I mean, we say that if the entity is within the time frame or material frame, then infinite regress is impossible.
Yeah,
Because of our existence. So it's impossible. Now the second possibility is that the infinite regress should end at a point where timelessness begins. Yes. So whatever beyond that is timeless. Timeless. Whatever entity is there, it is timeless. Even if you bring we're at this point now. Whatever is beyond this timeless time frame, this timelessness region, we have to decide what is the nature of this existence, timelessness existence. Can there be multiple timelessness existence, self-sufficient or self-explanatory, or it would require further explanation for this existence, timelessness existence. So we can argue that this timelessness existence should be one unit, because you cannot differentiate in time. And if there is nothing in, there is nothing to distinguish between two timelessness existence, then you cannot say that this timelessness existence is not unit or in multiple form.
I didn't understand that.
Okay,
But it's okay. But let's say, do you think like you are a physicist, so
Regarding multiverse and this,
no, multiverse is fine. I mean,
Let's talk about the concept of multiple absolute beings who are the source of or the grounding of our reality. We're talking about our reality, our existence needs to be grounded on something that we call the transformer. Let's call it the creator, right? Can there be multiple creators? We're absolute.
I can't think about it, but it's quite possible that there can be multiple beings working with each other to
Okay.
create.
So what we would say is multiple beings working each other,
Working with each other, just
then
like
working
we work
with
with
each other,
other.
working with each other tells us that we haven't understood what we mean by necessary. Because a being that is going to be necessary is a being who doesn't have weakness or limitation.
Yeah, but that
It's an absolute being. Because we are contingent, depending on independent reality, that independent reality has to be by definition necessarily absolute. Absoluteness does not include any weakness, limitation, deficiencies. By compromising, like, okay, I will listen to you. Why don't I listen? You do this and that. That's a weakness.
Yeah, but that is something that definition, for example, it should be absolute. It is again defined by humans, right?
Okay, let me give you a scenario to explain it further. Okay, so let's take two creators or two gods who are absolute, and let's take some of the absolute qualities like absolute power and ability, and absolute knowledge. When we say absolute knowledge, it means knowledge of all things timelessly. Yeah, knows everything. Okay. So imagine we have now God 1 and God 2, or God A and B. God A has a plan to create something. He's able to do that, right?
Sorry, both of the creators have the same,
Same.
all-powerful,
All knowledge.
knowledgeable.
Right. I'm limiting to 2. There could be more, but let's just 2. So God A has a plan to create, and he wants to keep what he wants. He's intending to keep it to himself, secret to himself. He's able to do that because he's all powerful. God B is all knowledgeable. Is God B, by his own knowledgeable nature, going to find out God A's plan? 2 options. If he finds out, that makes him all knowledgeable. If he doesn't find out, that makes him less than all knowledgeable. So if he's less than all knowledgeable, then he cannot be God, absolutely. But suppose he finds out. If he finds out, then that makes this God not absolute, because he was incapable to keep it secret.
But in general, my understanding of knowledge is that if I am all knowledgeable and you are also not all knowledgeable, it means we have the same understanding of knowledge, right? We know everything. We both know everything. So in that case, anything that you would know, I would know by default.
So
right?
am I all powerful? Am I all powerful enough to keep something secret?
I honestly, I'd never understood the concept of all powerfulness because
Now, all powerful is the ability. For example, I have.
it is like honestly it is it's like compelling, but if we go with philosophy, you have already heard about that argument that can a god create, all powerful god create stones,
He cannot live.
so
But
I'm
that's-
not sure like
but-
if it contradicts itself or not,
but that's-
because it's in logic or not.
So,
but that's not my point.
but this question again, have you thought about it?
No, it's just this coming to my mind when you said like when we are
But we are not introducing here. We are just demonstrating the concept of absoluteness cannot be such that it can be possessed by 2 different entities. It just simply contradicts.
or we can say like they are like super intelligent beings out of nothingness, different, just like we are.
But
like,
even if they're absolute, then you have this problem, because you cannot have their being absolutely powerful and absolutely all knowledgeable. There will be conflict of will. For example,
With your permission, can I say something? The different coordination events that it takes to take any single action at any given moment in time is too enormous for one individual, for more than one individual to decide.
It's in
keep
time.
it on you to touch the.
The different coordinations that are required, emotional, mental, physical, financial, everything that is required for the benefit of one action to exist
Which one's yours?
at any given moment
Mike.
in time, for one action to occur,
Okay.
it has to be single, coming from a single source, not multiple sources. So if one God decides to be merciful and give a person a chance because he made a mistake, another God decides no, he can't give him a chance. That's punished. That's a conflict.
I think there is a lot of
This argument is that if there are multiple gods, maybe they are in agreement.
what I'm saying is they might not be all powerful,
Where are you going?
but they are much more intelligent than us.
So let us entertain that possibility.
Which one?
So by all powerful we mean that
That's
there
what I'm
is
saying.
no
Let's take him
limitation.
in the side. We discuss that.
Nothing can limit. When a minority moves,
There's too much noise here. We'll go to a side. Yeah.
We'll go further,
Yeah.
further down.
Just
Not here.
over there. Yeah? It's quiet in here?
The verse that says regarding the question.
You know why we go there?
Okay. Okay, it's too much noise. We'll go there. Because we're having a good discussion, so let's continue with it.
I want to say it's a pleasure to meet you finally. I've always seen you on videos. You do dawah work, may Allah give you a long life after you and reward you immensely. Okay.
What
I forgot your name, okay. Is it Mansur?
Mansur. What's your name?
Irfan.
Fine. Nice meeting you, brother. It's okay.
Can I get you tea at me somewhere?
No, fine. Jazakallah khairan.
Yeah, because best to stay away from the controls.
Body separation of body and soul.
So, yeah.
So that's what I was saying. I was just talking to you that why it can't be. Let's say it's just hypothesis. So I'm not blaming him, but hyperdimensional beings who are much more intelligent than us, and they are like temporal. We are temporal beings. Let's say we exist within time and space. Because the problem is, let's say when we say God, it's a very complex subject, and everyone have their own definition. And when you add absoluteness to it, let's say is all powerful, it becomes very difficult to comprehend the concept of God itself. For example, as I said, like God is all knowledgeable. We don't even understand the depth of knowledge about something because there is always like a layer we are peeling. It's like an onion. You peel out. There is always some knowledge that because we first thought that there are.
We know everything. Science is complete like that.
Yeah,
and
because I mean it's not that because science is not a being that tries to
but
complete it, but it's
there's
like
no limit to knowledge
we know that okay there is air, then we named it like oxygen, then we know there are molecules, then we know there are atoms, then we know there are quarks. Now we say like particles are waves and functions and fields and now fields are there, and then we say like there is time and space and there is like quantum fluctuations and everything. So the thing is, when we add that attribute, because if you see like will, love, hate, all these emotions are human emotions, or they also exist in animals at different levels, and we are doing that for God as well. For example, the concept of God. Okay, and we know that okay, everything that are all of our emotions exists within this temporal space of humans. I do get your point. Okay? I do get your point that there is
timelessness.
like timelessness, because the more qualities we add, it is very difficult to explain that kind of God. I mean, because I believe proving God is the most easiest question. Because it would be very difficult after that if you are able to prove God. It would be very difficult to prove
Attributes.
all the attributes, like all powerful.
So, okay.
So I am fascinated by the concept of God, because it is something that is being pondering us for a long time. Because when you say like
Would you consider God would be the greatest being? Because if something is grounding of every existence, then he has to be, by definition, greater than everything that you can imagine.
okay, but let me ask you something. Why can't we consider it as a product of us evolving from from non-intelligent creatures to intelligent creatures? What are your thoughts on that?
So you are saying that.
Let's say, for example, you already know that we have a predisposition of believing in God. When we are born, if you know about HAD-H, hyperactive agency detection.
We're hardwired to believe in God, right?
Yeah,
Children
I
are
mean,
hardwired.
yeah.
So
It's
studies
like
have been
we
done
have
to
a
demonstrate.
predisposition of believing in God, but
Yeah.
it has to do with our evolutionary.
But I'm going beyond.
survival.
I'm going beyond this scientific understanding of evolution of life. I'm talking about even if life didn't exist in this earth, and matter existed, you still have to explain the existence of matter, and you'll have to explain the interactions of matter as they are interacting,
correct.
right? So then
timelessness.
that would require eventually agency with ability, will. Why I say will, transformation could have been other way. For example, it could have been like our universe could have been something like different. Like instead of human beings having 2 hands, it could have been 3 hands, for example. It could have been different way. So because this is determined in one way, there's exercise of choice involved. Determined by a choice. So the agency has will.
The problem is we don't have that much of information.
That's a bit saying.
That's why it's easy. When you say that it's very complicated, it's very this.
It is complicated, but it is fascinating but complicated.
Yes, that's what
But the issue is that, let me explain here. So the issue is that through reasoning, we recognize that there should be an existence which is beyond time, something like that, whatever matter or something like that. But it should have some capability to transform and should have some information because these are concepts. I mean, space, time, charts. These are concepts. So these concepts should be grounded there already. Either information box or something like that. It should be all the information, because if you say that information can create itself or can come from somewhere, it would be contradictory to our observations. Like nothing pops up into existence out of nowhere. Like it follows a particular law.
Yeah, the problem is like the nothing and something thing. It's so. It is like we can just discuss it like
It's very
like,
remarkable,
because
fascinating.
you know no it's more about that since we know nothing we don't know that nothing can create something or there was always something.
Yeah, suppose
There can be like-
that's a good question. Let me address that. So suppose that there is something called nothing, which is not like our concept nothing. Suppose there is a new kind of nothing. As per our understanding of nothing, which is devoid of all possibilities, all potentialities, this nothing cannot create anything. There is no potentiality. But suppose you are bringing new kind of nothing, which is not like that, and from that nothing, everything can come.
Then nothing will be something then.
Yeah, then
Yeah,
Because
then-
anything
then
that has
nothing-
potentiality is something.
Then nothing.
It's not nothing anymore.
Now from this effect, you can attribute some capabilities. Because when we see you, we do not see your whole being. We see your effects. You could be nothing.
Lawrence Krauss
I could be nothing. Yeah. sorry.
redefined nothing
Yeah.
by
So
actually
again-
meaning something.
Again, if you're trying to avoid this time.
No, I'm not avoiding. It's more
No,
of that
no,
I want
not-
to
not
understand
you,
your
in general.
perspective rather than.
Yeah. No, not you. I'm saying that.
There's two verses from the Quran that make it very easy. I know at this stage, from what you spoke, you don't believe in the Quran. Your intellect can take you to a certain point as a tool, but then it stops because it can't go beyond that because of the other limitations that we have. The ability to absorb information, the ability to retain information, memory, along with existence. So there's a verse in the Quran that Allah says that Allah intends ease for you because insan or human being by nature is created weak. So because you cannot comprehend, given the limitations that we have, who God is in the complete sense, His words. Like there's a verse that if you try to get all the oceans to write the words of God, the oceans will be depleted, but the words will not finish. So you reach a certain point, but then it's easier when you've done all the thorough research you can to the best of your ability. What you heard, what you saw, what you observed, intellect, you go a certain point, but then it comes to a point where you have to submit and say, okay, based on the chances and probability, the research that I've done into, given my reasoning, everything I have into this religion, this religion, who God can be, His attributes, His nice, loving thing, everything can be, and it makes the most logical sense, financial sense, family sense, in terms of governance, kids, upbringing, and submission, and rely upon Him, then you're left with one entity, God. So
Let
that's
us.
what we
I
have.
mean, that's different avenue.
Yeah, because
let us explore how far we
I
can
have
go
not
in
read
terms of.
it, so
Yeah.
it is
So it's very
difficult
complicated, 'cause it's
to.
very
No, I get
complicated
it.
to
I get it.
comprehend. So it is,
But,
as
but,
human
but
beings,
we can go as far as we can through our reasoning. That's the point.
Let's go align with his thinking
Yeah,
and we can help him
because
out.
let's say I have not read any scriptures, for example. So if for example, if you want to prove being God, and if you believe that God can be proven without the scriptures,
it can be.
yeah. So then we should first step on that because Quran is like, I mean, the book, basically the scriptures, is. I think it comes at the later part when you are convinced that there is a God.
But can I say something which is very disingenuous that you're doing, and I think you're doing it subconsciously as a human being. It's you're doing it intentionally, which you don't realize. So it's something that we're all capable of doing. God says in the Quran, "Am lil insani illa ma tamanna," that if you leave the agency to believe in God and you go to different religious way of life, you're going to take what's convenient and easy for you that works for you personally. Doesn't work for me, doesn't work for him, doesn't work for any of us. So you take one aspect from this religion, which is what people do now, atheists or in UK. You take an aspect of like pagan thing from here, you take the romantic festival of Valentine, you take this, you take the yoga from the Hindu, you take this from the Muslims, you take this, you combine everything and you said, okay, you know what, I've got my degree, I've got my wife, I've got my kids, I've got all of this, I'm okay. But it's very disingenuous to enjoy the luxuries that God gives you, which you didn't create, of producing children, eating, seeing, sight. You exist, you live, you enjoy all the luxuries that God give us, but conveniently we resolve ourselves of the responsibility in any religion. So you don't go into completely Hinduism, sincerely believing it's the way of God, or you take the yoga. You go into Islam and you say, okay, I don't like this, I don't like this. It's not vegetable market. That human beings, God said, if I gave the agency to mankind to do as they like and believe as they like, there will be much corruption and turmoil in the land, which we see. And for God is not what he designs for himself as agency or command. It's what you're told to do. So when you are given instructions, God tells you to do this. It's upon your measure to measure them in the sense of using your reasoning. So you look into Hinduism, okay, the different gods, no, they can't be the conflicting. And then you look at Christianity, Father, the different scriptures, authenticity. You look at the message, you look at the concept of God, you look at how it's delivered to you, what the concept is of God, the messenger's way of life, how I govern. What does it say about my wife? What does it say about my children? What do I need to do? How do I eat? How do I go to the toilet? Just tell me one thing, just one. Islam says drink all the drinks you want in the world, no problem. Don't take one. It's bad for you. And you know that drink already. I don't need to say that drink to you. You know there's a human being. I don't need to say that from the Quran. God says eat any meat you want, anything except one. Because it's unhygienic or for the reason we don't know, Allah told us, don't take that. So okay, wear any clothing that you want except silk in terms of a material because it's preserved for you in Jannah. When you come and see me, it's prepared in Jannah for you. The men wear silk in Jannah, so it's a surprise. I'm holding it, don't wear it in things. So it's always one,
Jannah,
paradise,
right?
paradise. Yeah.
Jannah.
So it's a test that all the agencies Allah has, Jalla wa ala, all the capabilities and skills and attributes and all the beautiful attributes that he has, which are absolute. He's given us a tiny portion agency to you in love. So you can love your wife, you can love your kids. He's given it to you in ability of your resources, right? The money you have, the clothes you wear, and what you can exercise of your will, your force, your fight. All the attributes Allah has is given you a tiny little portion, which we don't know how much it is. To see what you do, ahsani amala. To see who is the best of you in good deeds. And Allah will measure, so you had the love, you had the power, you had the intellect, you had the resources, you had the ability to procreate, you had the ability to make things with your hand, you had the ability to see all the signs around you, trees, you used your eyes, everything. What did you do with it? And then you have that scalar measurement.
But that, whatever you said, that makes sense if I believe, let's say, it is.
But it's in your
It
interest
is not for
to
atheists, right?
I'm saying it's not in your interest to believe because it will result
Because
commitment.
it comes.
Brother is saying that makes sense once he's convinced there is
Once,
a
let's say.
But I'm saying it's in
Yeah.
your interest as a human being to not believe in God, given the agent who wants a responsibility that until you die, you're going to pray 5 times a day. Wake up in the morning, no reason. You don't see any reward in your hand. I don't see any God. Nobody comes and gives me something in my hand. This is your reward. So I'm going to get up in the morning, give charity, do this, do all of these agencies, but there's nothing. So as human being, it's convenient and easier for you to say, you know what, responsibility, obligation, my parents are not going to this, my mom told me this, my dad told me this. Wait, I'm going to be isolated, I'm going to be alone, I'm going to struggle, I'm going to isolate myself and have everyone around me move away because I've chosen a better way of life? No, I don't think so. So that's where you have that belief where you take the agency and you do your best.
You said about that. You said about doing our responsibilities. Okay? For example, working for the society and loving your wife.
Yes.
As of now, we all know that we do it in a way. Even let's say we are all sitting here discussing from different religions. We are not killing each other, right? So. Why is it necessary
the point is that
to pray? Let's say. I mean, we have gone past that. As of now,
these things should come
to pray. Like
this,
why?
no.
Let's say, for
The
example,
responsibilities of the creation to the creator can be discussed separately. Like once you know you are a creation of a creator, then automatically there comes some questions.
We have the
For example,
relationship and then we have
what is our relationship with that? Do we have rights and duties? Or is it just like I can do whatever I want? The question comes afterwards.
So,
but for yourself,
so
if you-
sorry, just one thing. You said necessity. Three things you said. Right?
I just necessarily
Necessary.
there exists our grounding of our existence, who will be self-aware, will have ability to create and transform us, and the intention to do so. Otherwise, our universe will not make any sense. So since now we are within our universe, the only thing that makes sense to us is this conclusion. There has to be. If you were outside the universe somewhere else, you might think differently. But the fact that this is your tools and these are your resources, you have no other way to think otherwise. Yeah? Okay? That's why the reality, we have to stick with our reality rather than hypothetically thinking like there could be other universes in which something else different. Well, but we're not in those universes. But even if there are other multiverses, even if,
Explain all this.
still these multiverses requires an explanation and a grounding, which will eventually be of this creator, the grounding, the transformer, right? So, with 3 essential qualities. I started with these 3 because these are the 3 that requires transformation to
Can you
happen.
just tell me again the 3 qualities? Sorry, I
Try to remember. Okay. What I-
necessity. Sorry, you said. Sorry,
no. Give me the time. Try to recollect.
self-awareness, right?
Self-awareness,
Will.
will,
Yeah. Third one, I don't remember.
ability.
I can give a hint like that. You compare yourself
because
with.
I have to
yeah,
study that.
yeah.
Of
You
course.
compare yourself.
So that I can come
Yeah,
with
taking
more
a baby
questions
step.
to you.
Yeah. Very
Because you
good.
don't wanna
So,
jump.
Let me give you.
Of course, I don't want to jump.
Let me give
Let's establish
a hint so that you can remember. Compare yourself to a pen. You can to make biryani or a cup of tea. What qualities you should have that is different from a pen which cannot create or prepare a cup of tea. You can. So you have awareness about yourself and the tea, and then you should have knowledge. You should have ability to transform. Like I should put sugar, water, and transform the water into a state of into its heated state. I mean hot state. So this transformation ability, knowledge, will, power. This sorry. You can. Remember.
So,
Then you make a distinction between
so,
the
so,
will and
so when
both
we
will.
say this, right? So, once we acknowledge that there has to be something like this, and we find that actually there seem to be a lot of claims by people. They're saying we received communication from this creator. Okay, this is where I think our limitation can have a bigger scope. Okay, because there's certain things we can just intellectually speculate. Yeah, that's what people, philosophers do. They get it right sometimes, they get it wrong sometimes. So there's a limitation of it. So once we understand that there has to be a creator of ourselves, now there's some religions talking about this creator, some books talking about creator. If we now find out that actually, okay, let's look at those claims. And if we find a religion or a scripture which actually makes sense coherently and satisfies your questions, then you'd say, that seems to be a genuine communication from the creator. Yeah? So Quran actually does exactly that to help people, to make it easy, because otherwise it's going to be a big burden. Like if you just become a philosopher, you can just speculate all your life and you will never get the final answer. Because you're always thinking, what about this, that. Okay? So revelation is what we called a communication from the creator, settles that dispute. Okay? Stops the speculation, gives us definitive answers. So the Quran is one example in which it does that in a way that with an inquiring mind, it satisfies your quest. For example, it gives us falsification tests to say, look, if you don't think this book is from this creator, that's how you can disprove it. Wow, that's a very interesting way to approach, because anyone can make claims. You know, someone can come and say, I am the prophet of God, give me all your money, your wallet, your car keys, your house keys. People can make claims. So the Quran claims to be from the creator, a revelation, a guidance from the creator, but at the same time tells you that if you don't accept it, these are the ways, various ways, you can disprove it to your satisfaction.
What are the ways?
Okay, one of the ways, the Quran says, if you think it's not from God, then imitate something like it. The whole book, in the way it is, 10 surahs like it, or one surah. A surah is like equivalent to one thematic unit of a book. There's 114 of the surahs in the Quran. Some people say it's a chapter, but actually it's not a chapter. A thematic unity. It could be like 3 lines, or it could be 286 lines. Surah of different length, but there are thematic unities of this book called the Quran. So the Quran has 114 surahs, and each surah is composed of what we call ayat, or signs, evidence, miracles, guidance. It is very significant meaning, very wide meaning. This ayat. Okay. So the Quran says simply bring a surah like it. Now it came to an individual at that time who was known by the people. I'm talking about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, unlettered, never gone to study language, literature, poetry, never gone to a school, college, university, whatever they had, because he grew among them, a shepherd. Okay? So people around them, some of them are very, very eloquent in their language. They were poets, they're professional poets. They would have competitions between them. And the best poem will be hung on the wall of the Kaaba. You know the Kaaba, when we go for Hajj in Saudi Arabia and Mecca, and we'll do circumambulation. So they would hang the best poem. And every time something is composed like this, they will celebrate, like a joy, like a celebration time. Just like when a baby boy is born, they will celebrate. A baby girl is born, darkness falls on their face. They're thinking next move is when and how I'm going to bury this daughter alive. But the joy is when they have a baby boy born and a good poetry. The Prophet never knew any poetry because that's the witness and attestation of his community. So at that point, when they heard the Quran, they would recognize that this Quran is not something that they can explain the source of. Because this individual has not learned the composition of poetry. And the Quran does not follow any of the composition rules of poetry. It's totally unique in its composition. So how is the Quran then, uttered and explained by the Prophet? You might think, okay, it's just language. But language in such a way that when the Quran imitated something like it, they found it very difficult. In fact, they found it impossible, even to this day. I will explain to you. Maybe you don't get it. But I will explain with analogy how the composition is. So they speak in their language, like how you use a sentence. Do you use a verb to begin with or a noun to begin with? Yeah? So for example, if I say I am going, I'm using I as a pronoun to begin with, right? I don't use like eat I me or something like that. You don't use the verb like that, okay? Eating me, no. I am eating. Arabs can say like akalt, I have eaten, okay? It's a verbal start of the sentence in some way. Akaltu tufahan, I've eaten an apple. So the object comes later. And they can be vice versa. So there's a convention of how the language is used. The Quran, in such a convention, they try to imitate it and it will become like gibberish in that speech, in that convention. So they could not imitate the language because every time they imitate the structure, it's like me saying, eat me apple. You'll say, what language are you speaking? You're speaking English. Oh, I are talking. You say, I are talking. You say, I am talking. So you'll find that the moment I'm trying to imitate the structure, my language delivery would be unacceptable to you immediately. That's exactly what happened with the Quranic imitation. So if I give you another analogy, the Quran is made up of Arabic letters, but it's composed in a very unique way, delivered in a unique way. That's why they couldn't imitate it. You see those buildings at the back? Made of stones, some of them in bricks. Suppose I tell you, you are an architect and I'm an architect, but I have a special building and you can't make building like mine. You'd say, look, we've been to the same architectural university, got the same degrees, right? Same qualifications. I know how you've learned. I can make whatever you can, okay? But I say, look, my building is special. Come have a look. So you go and see my building. Every single stone or the brick is not touching with the other stone or brick, floating in space. So one brick like this, another brick, floating in space. Totally, you can just, right. Now, if I showed my building like this to you, you as an architect, would you be able to make a building like mine?
No, that would just make it unique, right? Like, let's say
No,
Quran
would you have
is
the...
a unique
No, my question is different. Let's understand what the claim is. Would you be able to make a building like mine, imitate a building like mine?
Well, if in theory I know how you did it, then yeah. But if I don't know,
The Prophet said, I didn't compose it. It was just given to me. I'm just delivering the product. So now imagine I tell you as an architect, God gave me the power to do it. I don't know how. So you'd say, but I don't know God. I don't see anything, but okay. And you'd even stop trying. Why? Because you know with your current technology, you would fail to make a building like mine.
Because it was not from him. That's what the Quran was not from him.
Not from the Prophet.
Claim is,
Yeah.
wasn't from him that word.
Right.
That is from
So the Quran claims if you cannot do that, then know that this is a revelation sent from God. So that it then reinforces what this Quran is. Because Quran is people claim to be, oh, Prophet, he composed it himself. He did it with his friends and compatriots, with his community together.
We copied it from the Bible.
Yeah. But if that was the case, you should be doing the same thing. You should be able to imitate it. The fact that you cannot imitate, just like the building you cannot imitate, then the claim that the Quran is saying is a revelation from God, still knocking on you. It's a revelation from God. What's stopping you from accepting that claim? If you think it's not, then make something like it. So it goes in a vicious circle. If you think it's not from God, try to imitate it. If you fail to imitate it, the question comes again. Because it's from God, you're not able to imitate it. So and then you surrender. If you don't accept it, then you'll be constantly battling it. Where is this Quran from?
It asks for contradictions.
Yeah?
In the verse it follows.
Now that's another example. So this is a falsification test. Like in science, we have a theory, and you can say, this is how I did my experiments. See if you can replicate it, falsify it, and so on and so forth. So the Quran has given a falsification test. If it's not from God, the way to falsify it is by making something like it.
It's like a divine.
I
It's
don't
a
agree with you on that. The reason being that it just makes Quran a unique book. I mean, written in a
No, but
different
its
way.
challenge is there.
Sorry?
So the challenge is there. The whole
Yeah, but
idea.
it's like
Whole idea
explain
is
it in a
God
different
didn't
way.
just say it's unique.
What
So
I'm
it
saying
makes-
is,
okay.
let's say a Bible.
So it makes it okay. So it makes it unique,
make
right?
challenge.
Okay, it makes it unique.
makes it definitely.
Now, can you rationally explain to me why is the Quran not imitable in this unique way?
In this unique, I'm sorry, I've not read it. I've
Okay,
not read
so
it,
now
but,
let's talk about the
and I don't
building.
understand
Then let's talk
Arabic
about
as well, so
let's talk
it
about the
would be very
building then.
difficult.
Let's talk about the building example. It's a unique
I
building.
don't see that building example.
No,
is,
no, that's
very
precisely
good
that. Okay,
Yeah,
if I told you this is the building, it's a unique building, floating in
no,
space.
no, I give it that. See,
So-
I give it that. Sorry, I give it that it is a unique. Okay, but
You
the
know, for
thing
you
is
to
like
understand the building example, if the materials you're given are the same, cement, blocks, laborers, intellect, drawing, pen, and you do it at the same time, right? And you create something using the same tools, which the Quran says, like some chapters begin with Alif Lam Mim, alphabet letters. Use the letters of Arabic and make something exactly like it. And they were the best writers. It's like the example, someone coming now in the English Times, completely revolutionizing the language, man who's not able to speak, so I said illiterate, he can speak but he's not literate, and he revolutionizes the language, and he's got no previous degree or education, and he uses it using your language, and you can't explain it, and people find it easy to memorize it, and it has commands and instructions, and it confirms the previous scriptures that came before it. It corrects them in the mistakes they made, like the books of the Jewish and the Christians. It corrects them. It predicts the future of certain things and events to come. And he's doing it in your language in a way that is not spoken like it is. It's like someone speaking a way of Hindi that's never been spoken before, and in logically using the metric of means that you have, it cannot be explained. It's mind-boggling that, okay, I'll give you an example. You read a verse in the Quran and it brings a question to your mind. Let me just finish this point. It brings a question to your mind in that verse. The minute you have an
You
objection,
can answer it. You can answer it. You can answer it.
The point is that I mean the claim there is a claim that every poetry book or every poetry writer is unique in his style. But the point should be mentioned that
it's a perfect book.
the point is here that there is objective meters to just verify whether it is reproducible or not. I mean, like sonnet. Okay, sonnet is unique
Yeah, the
style
sonnet
of
is-
writing.
yeah,
Yeah, it is
exactly.
Shakespeare's.
The precision.
But
Is it a
if
religious
it's
book, Afi?
No,
no,
it's,
it's
a
poetry or
poetry.
something like that. But what the claim is that every poetry or poet may be unique in his style or its style.
And you can still imitate the unique thing.
Unique thing. So if you have objective criteria, but the Quran has the same objective criteria.
So you know,
but
in that verse, like when you're reading the Quran, one of the remarkable things you'll find that I found, even if you're reading it from a critical, skeptical point of view when I first started practicing, you read the first verse of the Quran, your mind thinks of 10 ways to escape the argument in that verse. The next verse will begin to dismantle the doubts or the arguments you have about the previous verse. And then you read the next verse and you think, but this. The next one will answer that. You go and it's keep doing it. So it doesn't leave room for the other person to have a counter argument that the Quran itself doesn't give you in your hand already and then dismantles it. It gives you the argument. That's in the language that they were proficient at and experts.
Thus, Quran gives you tools.
Yes.
I mean tools when I say that, okay, this is how I got it.
Friends dies.
This is how I got all
your
these
name?
things,
Can you
let's say all the knowledge. Can you replicate?
Very simple. So the raw
Sorry, I didn't get
materials.
it.
His dad is there. Really, his dad.
Your dad.
You know the raw materials of the Quran.
Just to say hi to your dad, so just one second.
So we have
Arabic letters.
Arabic letters. So Arabic letter from Alif to Ya, which is 29 letters.
I'll be back.
So these are 29 letters used to produce the book. Over 6,000 words.
What is this?
Yeah, I got it. But it's a language is one tool, right?
So now,
But if
so you have the same letters. Now you have the raw materials. The raw material is available.
Yes.
Right? Now it's your duty to produce using those letters.
Let me give an example. Like that Quran has. I mean, you can observe the Quran and discover the patterns, like some objective patterns. So like the sonnet, it has particular pattern, like some words,
So
some letters should be there.
just one question. It's like you said, like it's kind of a poetry. Is it kind
Not poetry, not prose. It has own style.
Okay,
And
it's
you
its
can
own
you can
style.
you can objectively verify and identify the style.
But it has a rhythm. It has a matching rhythm to the verses.
It has sound
Commands,
quality.
instructions. Like Muslim, we don't listen to music. In the same heart, you can either have music or Quran. We're not supposed to as Muslims. So the Quran takes that place because information that is conveyed in a rhythmatic way, it helps you to memorize it. It helps you to take instructions. Like when we go to bed at night as children, our parents read us stories. It's something you find and then you fall asleep to that. It's appealing because it has motivations, it has stories, it has all of these good inspiring things as children when they read us stories. And it matches, there's characters, there's names, and it's the history of the people that came before and events that are due to occur in the future. And it tells you how you will meet God, what will happen in the grave, what will happen, what are the things that you're supposed to behave towards your wife. But it doesn't do it in a way where your brain gets overwhelmed and you crumble. It doesn't give you instructions about marriage like this, and you're like, okay, so what do I do? 2 verses. And everything else about marriage will be in those 2 verses, which is tafsir, what the ulama they have. Okay, how do I have a bath? It doesn't go into detail of the different properties. It gives one verse in a poetic way, and if you were to combine all the cultures from history of time and say, what's the best way a person can have a bath? In one line. You'll find in the Quran or the Hadith. And it's something is only one, and you do it. It's what the Prophet ﷺ did.
Sorry, what is hadith?
Hadith, it's the sayings and
different from
the interpretation of the Quran and the meaning of the Quran, how the Prophet ﷺ lived his life. The first person to explain the Quran in living essence.
Hadith would
Hadith,
be
yeah.
explanations, approvals, disapprovals, statements,
Reports, basically.
reports from the Prophet, what he has done, said, approved, and so on.
Okay.
So these are like the explanation of the Prophet in a different literature called the Hadith literature. Quran is something not the speech of the Prophet, totally speech of God. Of the
Okay,
Hadith.
Quran is speech of God.
Yeah, Hadith contains the speech of the Prophet, his companions, and the afar of the companions, the reports of the companions. But necessarily what we mean by Hadith is just basically speech. Hadith is speech, speech of the Prophet.
And
In short, it is like that Quran is the guidance and Prophet is the demonstrator who demonstrates how to implement those guidance and instructions.
and the reports which record prophets, how prophet has implemented those, understood those, is reported. This report is hadith.
And one
So
of the
the instruction-
remarkable things, one of the remarkable things about Hadith and Quran that it was revealed over a period of, what's the age Akhi altogether? Wahi? 25? 23. 23 years. So the Quran from God is being revealed over 23 years. The life lived as you're supposed to by the instruction of God is lived over that period. And in that period, you had wars, you had marriage, you had divorce, you had fighting, you had praying, you had charity, you had rain, you had sunshine. So there is every single guidance over that period, and it doesn't make a mistake. It's revealed over that length of time, someone to speak something over 23 years' time and not make a mistake and not forget and not make an error. And his people that were closest to him, some relatives, distant relatives, companions, they couldn't object except fall in love with the guidance that he came with not a single mistake and contradiction. That's what makes the book remarkable. It's not like I write a book which is godly things, nice way people, it's okay, don't steal, don't murder, and I give it to you, and I said, see if you like it or not, add your bits and give it to this person. You do your editing, you give it to him, he does his editing, you get, and then it goes around, and then you think, okay, so what do? This is by 100 people about good things, but the one who made me, he has the best and the most first utmost right that I give him back of what he gives me, of the faith that he has in me, of trust with this amana, how I live, I return that back. So what does he want me to do, Jalla wa ala? And that instruction is in the Quran. And then you begin to follow that, and it doesn't involve men. It doesn't involve something you're imitating 1,000 men. Just one man, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And everyone imitates him. It's the central figure. That it's the best way a human being can live is through this man. In any situation. In fighting, marriage, any situation that you have, everything.
It gives a principle.
Yes.
It's a book of guidance, right? It's a book of guidance.
It gives the
Now
principles.
the fundamental question would be, what do I need to see in a book to be convinced it's from the Creator? So if you have now hundreds of thousands of books, whatever, how do I know what criteria does this book have to meet that I will be satisfied it's from God? What would you want to see from a book?
Honestly, I don't think a book can contain all the knowledge in the world. It's
Not about all the
possible.
knowledge,
But
but
What you need to do,
essentially-
what you need to do to be convinced and submit. You are not responsible for the world. The world is not on your shoulders or mine. We can't bear it. We cannot bear the burden of life, as Allah says in the Quran, that He's made the human being by nature is created. We're made from clay, right? The food we eat, the properties we have in our body, they coincide with the properties found in space. When we decompose, we're going to the ground, those properties return in the form of trees and stuff. So you have this similar concept in other religions, but what formulates it into a guidance of repaying back in thankfulness. So you're only responsible for yourself, not your wife, not your kids, no one. Just of what I came into the world alone in the womb of my mother. I will go back to God exactly in the same way, in a white cloth. I will go in the grave alone. If something, God forbid, may God give you a long life and guide you. If something happens to you tomorrow, your wife will remarry. So, or vice versa. So the burden of obligation is upon any given moment is what are the proofs that you need yourself, not the whole world. Don't worry about the world and all the knowledge and all the power. And what thing is what you need right now in a proof. That's what the brother's asking. That's what
the
he means.
reason why we're saying a book to settle the dispute, the alternative ways could be like God simply saying, hey, it's me. Why don't you believe me? It's me, God, the creator, the originator. I want you to do X, Y, and Z, right? There could be various ways like that. But the problem is, with these kind of things, like I want to see God, I want to hear God, people don't understand the limitation. I mean, do you see ultraviolet, infrared? You can't, because you're limited in your vision. Do you see something beyond, do you hear something beyond the wavelength of sound? You can't.
We have.
So likewise, God is so great in his existence that if you think about us compared to God, look, we are like a speck, like a small spot,
Insignificant.
yeah, on this earth. Compared to Earth, we are like a speck on this earth, right? The Earth is like a speck in our solar system. the solar system is like a speck in the Milky Way galaxy. The Milky Way galaxy is a speck in a great universe. And God created all of this universe. He's like, his throne extends the heaven and the earth. So you can imagine, how can a speck appreciate? Your vision will not comprehend this creator. So by saying that I want to see the creator, it's like asking for the impossible. So in fact, the question was raised by one of the prophets of God. I just want to be content, satisfied. I know you exist, but I just want to see you. So God said, okay. See that mountain? If that mountain still stands after I reveal some of my glory, then perhaps you'll see me. So God revealed part of his glory, his light, right? That mountain became dust, right? Burned into dust. That prophet, Moses, peace be upon him, fainted when he raised to his consciousness again, back to his consciousness. He realized the mistake. Because even that insignificant light that God revealed, or his glory that he revealed on the mountain was totally destroyed into dust. Just like if I ask you to look at it, don't look at it. If sun, bright sun, for 1 hour, you will be partially blind.
Few seconds,
right? So we can't see God in the makeup that we are created. That's why
It's limited.
That's why God cannot just simply say, here am I, and that's it, believe in it. It's asking for the impossible. We'll be dead if we were to see it. So even hearing people say, how do you know it's God? I might have been in hysteria, in illusion, in delusion. So these things are going to be objectively verifiable to be true reality. So there are other ways. God says, okay, fine, he will send or raise up agents like human beings, as prophets and messengers of guides, give them the proofs that people will say, okay, that makes sense. For example, imagine now someone says, okay, fine, with a stick on the ocean, and the ocean splits. There's a hole now ground and water splits. No one can do that with a stick. So that's what we call defying the natural law that we know of. Miraculous activities are taking place. Miracles, for example. So prophets and messengers, some of them, they displayed through the will of God these miracles so people can accept them as true prophets and messengers. Quran came with this kind of miraculous thing within itself. One of them is the inimitability, that no one can match it. The other ones is like, if this was a book from God, like another falsification test is, then you should be able to find lots of inconsistencies and contradictions and errors. Because a book that you talked about talks about so many things in 23 years. Science, archaeology, history, politics, economics, anthropology, everything about life. If it wasn't from God, you and I know they will make mistakes because their knowledge will be based on the understanding of that time, what they understood to be true and real. So people at that time may the earth is flat or a circular or a triangular, whatever, right? It will be confined to that knowledge. If you look at the Quran, you will notice one thing. This is come out straight away differently, uniquely. It doesn't seem to be confined in its contents like it's coming from a particular space-time.
Yes.
It's like talking about something like far ahead of its time.
When you read it, it feels wrong. It feels wrong when you're reading it because it defies logic. When you're reading it, it feels almost to an extent that this much accuracy and consistency, it's not possible to be written down or spoken or said this concisely and not make a mistake. It's perfect because it's the word of God.
Lots of different theories about the origin of the universe. In the 7th century.
Before that, I'll have one more question and then I'll just leave you because I have taken a lot of time. But
No, it's okay. It's a pleasure speaking to you.
It's a lot of information and you've been very patient. It's good.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but like Bible is the precursor of Quran.
No. So what we believe is
That is not my question, but it's more
Bible
likely
was
like,
in existence beforehand.
because I believe you also believe that Jesus was a prophet, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, and before that, I think Moses. And
Yes.
So it is more of a geographical question. Why does your God likes Middle East so much? You know, like say, like
The answer is
Israel
very-
from
the
Iran.
answer is given in
Because
the Quran.
if you see, like, I might be wrong, but
Yeah.
I believe all the prophets and messengers were born in that particular belt. You know, like, Israel, Saudi Arabia.
But we have a different understanding from the Quran. God says He doesn't punish any community or a nation, take them responsible or accountable, unless He sends them a warner, a prophet or a messenger, right? And He says every nation had a prophet and a messenger. They had warners, every nation. That means India, Indonesia, China, whatever you look at geographically,
Yes,
they
the whole
all
world.
had
The whole world.
from God prophets or warners. Quran talks about some of those people, prophets, yeah, name some of them, and He doesn't name some of them. So some of the prophets' names that not even in the Bible, for example. Okay, so unique to the delivery of the Quran, and the Quran says others He has not mentioned, because there was no, for example, if the Quran mentioned a prophet called, blah blah blah, I mean, who's gonna know who the blah blah is? Somewhere in a country called blah 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 blah. It's not going to be any help for anyone. So the Quran talks about, in general sense, God, because He's just, He sends warners to remind them what is expected of them. And then based on that, they will be judged. Judgment cannot be imposed on people unless they've been told, this is what you have to do and this is what you have to avoid.
Is
But if
delivered
you
in a
see, like-
language is delivered in a language that you would understand, message would come, and it doesn't take into account. It's irrelevant if it's black, if the prophet is black, white, any skin color, it doesn't play a part. So in also the choice of God is like saying, how come we don't have three eyes, two at the front and one at the back from God? So we don't choose where God says you do not question about what God does, but you will be questioned, because the one who gives the message and the one who gives the resources, who gives life, has the authoritative position, because this bag is yours, the shirt is yours, so you decide what to do with it. I can't decide, okay, I think you should wear a bigger watch. You will say it's not your business. So in a polite way, it's God decides. There's a verse in the Quran, God knows where to put His blessing. So it's not so us to dictate, like me as an Asian, like I'm from Pakistan, and it's from there.
So
Yeah.
the point about this Quran, to see whether it's a communication from Creator God, what we expect from a book then, because if it's not going to be our own self, like He comes along and says, oh, God told me this,
Yeah.
we would not have any objective way of verifying. So prophets come through these miracles and proofs and evidence, and the Quran provides many of these type of proofs that one can satisfy you. Like it might tell you something about natural world, and you realize, how can He know that? I mean, we only found out today, for example. Imagine information only accessible through submarines or electron microscopes or satellites. You'd say that information is impossible for people to have known at that time. So the Quran actually provides information to that level without going into specifics. So that you will know, interesting, that seems to be not from a particular geographical location or a place or anywhere from planet Earth, because that information would not have known. People would not have the resources. So what we expect then from a book is this kind of information where that it makes a claim it's from God, it demonstrates with some information content that it's indeed from God. That's how you can then say, makes sense. Like how do I know, for example, imagine you are the celebrated poet of England, Shakespeare, right? How do I know you're Shakespeare from your writing? I can look at your writing, I can look at the composition style. Yes. Oh, that's a Shakespearean sonnet. So this is how you can identify the Quran's from God or not. Look at the context. Not from a human being, not from any scientist, not from any philosophers. It has the hallmarks of what you expect God to put in. So this is what you can look into further.
I don't agree with all of what you
have
said,
to- you
but
have to think
yeah,
about it,
but
reflect on it.
definitely it was a very fascinating.
What's your name?
My name is Ritvik.
Ritwik, yeah? Irfan, good to meet you. Thank you for talking. Yeah, you take care,
But it was
Ritwik.
like we'll discuss again.
Discuss further.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank
Allah
you.
yahdik ya insan. Allah yahdik. Take care.
Sorry.
Sometimes
I think
yeah.
I would first.
You can get it in English. Give it a try. Okay.
How are you? What's your...